If your team was coming off a conference finals appearance and had two of the most exciting young players in the league on its roster, there's no doubt you'd be happy about how the future's looking. But how would you feel if it started to look like that's as far as they could go? Would you be comfortable with coming just short of the ultimate goal year after year? There's a chance you'd be in a weird situation. And that's probably where most Celtics fans are right now. Boston has a talented core that can put up a fight against anybody and win a few series in the Eastern Conference. But when it comes to taking that final step forward, they've already fallen short 3 times in the last 4 seasons. And even though some of their players have only gotten better during the last couple of years, the truth is the rest of the East has also gotten better. Teams like Brooklyn and Milwaukee have retooled their rosters to give themselves a chance to win it all this year. And now it's fair to wonder whether the C's have what it takes to keep up with their rivals. Could they be getting left behind in the pecking order? Let's take a look into it. The last 4 seasons have been a roller coaster for the historied franchise. After Danny Ainge managed to speed up the team's rebuild and made a series of moves that put it in a position to be successful immediately and in the long term, expectations went off the roof. Following an appearance in the 2017 Conference Finals and a busy offseason that brought multiple All-Stars to the team, it looked like it would be only a matter of time before the Celtics could raise banner number 18. But unfortunately, that's not how things turned out. The team went through a couple of seasons that met a disappointing finish. On top of that, its roster suffered a deep retool as most of the players that were part of what was supposed to be a championship contending core decided to leave in free agency. But somehow, things have remained mostly the same in Beantown. The Celtics made it to the conference finals last season, and they're once again part of the conversation in the East thanks to the play of their new core of all-star players. In other words, Ainge and coach Brad Stevens have found a way to keep the team winning despite the difficulties they faced during the last 3 seasons, and that's remarkable. However, they've also failed to deliver a championship despite the many assets they've had during that period, so now might be time to start tempering expectations. During the last 4 seasons, the only time Boston was considered a true contender was in 2019. That year, they had Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, and Terry Rozier to go along with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. But even though that was their most talented roster on paper, that's been the only time the team failed to make it past the second round since 2017. Somehow the Celtics have underperformed when expectations are high and overperformed when they're low, but things could start to change this time around. Each time they made it to the conference finals, they benefited from a weak East in which there were only 1 or 2 teams capable of stopping them from reaching the finals. In 2017 and 2018, the LeBron-led Cavaliers made sure to extend their dominance over the Eastern Conference at the expense of teams like the Celtics. Then in 2020, the Heat was the only team capable of releasing its full potential inside the bubble, which allowed it to make a surprising run to the finals. But now, even though Boston is still one of the most talented teams in the league, it's starting to look like they'll have a much more difficult path to the conference finals. The reason for that is simple. Other teams have made moves to upgrade their rosters and prepare themselves to go against the competition. For instance, Milwaukee upgraded its guard play by acquiring Drew Holiday, and while their depth took a step back as a consequence, they still managed to put up a solid supporting cast around their core of Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez. Philadelphia also made a few moves that have helped them look better than last year. They added shooters, and new coach Doc Rivers has released the potential of Joel Embiid. So even if the Sixers don't have as many stars as the Celtics, they seem to be just as dangerous. And of course, now there's also Brooklyn. The duo of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving was already enough to turn the Nets into championship contenders, but the addition of James Harden could make things more complicated for the rest of the East, including Boston. Other teams like Miami and Indiana could also end up making a few surprises come playoff time, but so far they haven't liked the championship contenders, so we'll leave them out of the equation. Still, 3 teams with the talents to make a finals appearance makes it more complicated for the Celtics to go deep into the playoffs. And suddenly, it also looks like they could end up getting left behind by the competition. We can't predict what could happen in the postseason, and if things are similar to last year, we're sure anything could happen. But if everything goes according to expectations, it's easy to see Brooklyn playing in the conference finals against Milwaukee or Philadelphia. But what about Boston? Don't they have a chance to beat those teams in a 7-game series? On paper, the Celtics should be able to match the star power of those teams. After all, the trio of Kemba Walker, Tatum, and Brown is good enough to produce as many points as any other combination of star players. However, it's hard to tell exactly how good they'd be able to perform together. While the 3 were capable of sharing the responsibility and offense during last year, they've yet to play together this season as of the writing of this video. Walker made his season debut just a few games ago as he was recovering from a procedure on his left knee, and Tatum missed the last few weeks because of health protocols. So it remains to be seen how good they'll be when they share the court now that Hayward is not around. Of course, that shouldn't be that much of an issue. Both Tatum and Walker were all-stars last season, and while Brown missed the cut, he's been playing like a superstar during the first month of this season. If healthy, the 3 should be able to lead the team to a good record during the regular season and compete against anybody during the playoffs. However, at least 2 major concerns are surrounding the team. The first one, as we just pointed out, is the health of its best players. Last year, Hayward missed most of the playoffs because of injury, and once he returned, he couldn't help the team advance since he wasn't fully healthy. But this time around, all the attention will be on Walker. The point guard dealt with knee issues during most of last season and even started strengthening therapy to try to alleviate the pain in his knees. That same therapy was responsible for holding him out during the first few weeks of the season. But in his own words, it has allowed him to play free of pain in his knees for the first time in a while. If he's able to remain healthy throughout the season, he'll be able to take some of the offensive load away from the young duo while also helping them elevate their games. But if knee issues persist, the Celtics may end up having a lower ceiling than expected. However, even if their three stars are capable of playing at their best during the playoffs, there's another reason why they may not be capable of defeating rival teams, and that is their depth. Since the departures of Irving, Horford, and Rozier, the Celtics have dealt with a depth issue, and the departure of Hayward doesn't make things any easier for them. Other than Smart, their bench doesn't have any player capable of making a few plays on a daily basis. Most of the pieces on the second unit are still in their rookie contracts, and they still lack the experience to perform consistently at a high level. They also lack a player capable of holding himself against star big men. And while the additions of Jeff Teague and Tristan Thompson were supposed to help with each of those issues, so far it hasn't looked like they'll be able to make a big difference when it matters the most. But not everything's been bad, of course. Rookie Peyton Pritchard has been impressive during the first month of the season. His play has garnered the attention of the basketball world and earned him a role within the team's rotation. He may not be a solution to the team's biggest issues, but he was a key piece in the last few weeks. His shooting and ability to make plays in the clutch already make him look like a steal with the 26th pick, and the Celtics can only hope he keeps getting better as the season progresses. But other than hoping for a rookie to bring life to their bench, is there anything Boston can do to get help immediately? Given their financial situation, the team is in a position where it's hard to acquire quality free agents. On top of that, their limited depth makes it look like a bad idea to try to negotiate a trade for any additional pieces. However, they have a few exceptions they could try to use if any good player does become available, including the huge exception that was created following the sign and trade that sent Hayward to Charlotte. Using any of them will be an option as long as teams are looking to become sellers as the trade deadline gets closer. But if the team can't find any reasonable options to use an exception, the best would be not to compromise their finances any further. So, is there any hope for the Celtics? Well, if everyone's healthy when the playoffs get going and Tatum and Brown keep playing as they have so far, they'll have a chance to compete against anyone. However, it doesn't seem like a championship is a realistic goal for this season. So, unless the team manages to make a surprising deal by the trade deadline, perhaps the best would be to focus on building around Tatum and Brown so they can compete for a championship in the coming years. In the end, the Celtics should keep having a strong presence in the playoffs every year, and that's an achievement in itself. However, it doesn't look like they're ready to make a championship run just yet. As talented as Brown and Tatum are, their supporting cast is still not good enough to help them beat elite teams in a playoff series. So even while no one on the team may admit it, the best could be to start looking at the future. But now, do you believe Ainge should look to make a deal that helps the team compete immediately? Or would it be better to try to retool the roster in the offseason? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to like it and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. We are Courtside.